the inaugural episode of Ask the Editor for Keystroke Medium. I have enlisted, for at least this broadcast, hopefully for more, I have enlisted the help of Devon C. Ford, runaway best-selling UK author. So without any further ado, let's get started.
Hi. Okay, first question coming in from Ken. Can you, Ellen, read a book without editing it in your head? Is that a pastime that spoiled your work? He says that he can't watch any Navy-related movie without picking it apart. Totally with you there, which spoils it to some degree. So can you read a book just to enjoy reading it?
In very exceptional cases, yes. I mean, if the book is like super duper good and I'm not going to name any names, then yes, I can not see glaring mistakes. It helps if there aren't any glaring mistakes. As a rule, though, I'm kind of muddling through life, editing everything and everyone at all times, and my family is really tired of me hanging out the window and abusing random signs as we pass by in the car. So I guess the short answer is sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
What else about any previous experience or any previous life or anything that like Ken with his Navy movies? I'm exactly the same with like anything involving the UK police. I did it for 11 years. I lost my hat for about 3 years. But every UK copy you'll ever see on screen is always wearing their hat and has their brand new yellow jacket done up. It just doesn't happen. So is there anything like that you see, things that are completely inaccurate in TV and stuff that you just scream at?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is Southern accents. Southern accents do not all sound the same. Someone from Louisiana doesn't sound like someone from Georgia, doesn't sound like someone from Alabama, doesn't sound like someone from West Virginia. So yeah, no, there's not a generic Southern accent, and nobody sounds like Julia Roberts in Steel Magnolias, but I can forgive her for that because Steel Magnolias.
Okay. Right then, one from Dean Floyd. Passive voice and filtering are the big offences I bring to my stories. Can you explain how to look out for those in the drafting stage, and maybe some sure signs that you're filtering or sure signs you're using a passive voice?
Okay, well, they're two very different things, although they can.
Can you just explain what they are for people who may not be aware of the terminology?
Passive voice is kind of relegating what you're doing to a third person, and an easy way to decide if you're using passive voice or not, and this is, some of you are already familiar with this, but if you can add zombies to the sentence, you're using passive voice. For instance, Ellen sat in her office chair with the office chair was sat in by zombies. You see, the office chair was. So if you're putting the subject ahead of the verb, then you're probably using passive voice, and you can use it a little bit, but try to stay away from it. So the office chair was sat in by Ellen and zombies. You're using passive voice. Filtering, I hate filtering. Filtering is the act of distancing your action from your main character or the character that you're dealing with, divorcing them and consider it like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Okay. Ellen watched Devon's lips move as he interviewed her. Okay, we can assume that Ellen is watching because it's about Ellen. So just slice out Ellen is watching and say Devon's lips were moving. Okay, now you have action, now you have immediacy, now you have your reader is right there with you. You're not separating your reader from the action or your character, because most of the time you want your reader identifying with the character to keep them reading the book and keep them coming back for more.
Yeah, some of the technical terminology is new for some people, but I wasn't aware of filtering as such. It's what my editor called twat waffle.
Yeah,
she said just stop twat waffling.
Yeah.
So I don't do that.
Yes, please. Stop twat waffling.
Another one here from Kayleen. What is your favorite color of red?
My favorite color of red? Somebody actually is asking what my favorite color of red is. Excuse me, y'all. Alabama Crimson Tide football. I live and breathe the Alabama Crimson Tide. What do you think my favorite color of red is?
Okay. When using Word, this is one from Erica. and making changes. Are you satisfied with that color of red on the markup, or do you change it to be dark red, like blood, while you murder words?
This is a little tougher, and I'm sorry if this is going to disillusion you. I have to change it to blue, because otherwise I get so outraged by the bleeding ink on the document that I just can't even cope with life, and I start cursing at Devon in chat and making myself unpleasant. So we change it to a nice soothing blue, and then I can just kind of enjoy floating around in the waves of changes.
Yeah, you wouldn't consider turning it to like a dark purple, like you're choking the life from the author instead?
I might actually choke the life out of the author in that case. So I think it's better for everybody if we just go with a nice soothing blue.
Okay, on the subject of choking out authors, one from Christiana. How clean are the drafts that you usually get as far as edits needed? And have you gotten any, I love the way this one's worded, have you gotten any and you've just noped out or pushed, or have you had to push your way through?
Noped out. Yeah, I have noped out on occasion. I have noped out on several occasions recently. Yeah. The thing is if you're sending a really, really wretched draft to any editor, not just to me, if you're sending like a first draft, for instance, to somebody, noping out. Yeah, I love it. You don't want to do that, because what you get in the end is going to be determined by what you send in the beginning. And if you send me the very, very best thing that you can do, and I can see the shine, when I'm done cutting and polishing, you're going to have a diamond. If you send me word salad, you're going to get back crappy word salad with some good punctuation. So which way do you really want to go?
Yeah, I get you there. Unless your editor is, from my point of view, unless your editor is a close personal friend of yours, in which case, are they going to be totally honest with you? You need to have almost a tiny bit of an adversarial relationship with them, and hear me out on this. Because if I chucked, for everyone's reference, Ellen's not edited any of my work yet, so this one might come back and bite me. If I chucked my first draft an editor, and my process is first draft, read through, second draft, beta read with a minimum of 6 people, editor, first edit, another read through, second edit, and then a final read through, and if there's time before release, a fresh set of eyes on a read through as well. Going through all of that process, I would not dream of sending a first draft to an editor if I wanted that editor to speak to me again. If anything, you should be charging more to work on a first draft. Oh,
I do. I absolutely do. Because when you're actually looking for an editor, the first thing that they're going to do is ask you for a sample edit, and they're going to look at the quality of the work that you sent, and they're going to charge you accordingly by how much time it's going to take them, whether they charge you by word count, whether they charge you by page count, or whether they charge you by the hour. If it's going to take
they charge you for
5 hours to do it, I'm going to charge you 5 times as much. Although yeah. I'm a word count person myself, because I think that's more fair to everybody. So when you send me your crappy first draft, no offense, I'm sorry, I said crappy. When you send me your first draft and I do a sample edit on it, and you get back a bill for $10,000 and your draft is 5,000 words shorter than when you sent it, and it was only 45,000 words when you sent it. See, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it in the wrong order. You want to send me the clean 40,000 words, get back 37.5 and some really good, beautiful scene work.
Yeah, and also something you should always, again, from my point of view, I work with various editors through traditional and self-publishing. You should always learn from every interaction with an editor. And my point of view is that the editor is the expert. You don't hire an electrician and tell them how to rewire the light fittings. If you go into an editor, because should have the skills, the experience better than what you are doing. You come up with a story. If you want that story turned into a saleable product, you need the edit.
And let me add that in spite of jokes and in spite of everything that you may think about the editorial process, my goal in editing your book is not to make you feel stupid or small or like you can't write. Okay, my name is on this too. I mean, this is part of my portfolio. What I want to see happen is an amazing, great story come out. I want you to sell 10 zillion copies, and I want you to succeed. I'm trying to give you the best possible tools for success that you can get. I'm not here trying to tell you that you're a moron.
Yeah, it's got to be tough love, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it does, and I do. I mean, I love my books. I love my people that I work with. I love my crew. I love words. So stop abusing them.
Okay, one from Peter Ian Staker. Have you ever spent time in a Turkish prison?
That's still on my bucket list.
Okay. Right. So anyone wants to dust something on Helen's bags when she goes through customs, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right. One from Andrew Lambert on the email. If you are portraying someone whose command of English isn't quite up to standard, how can you show this in their speech without you looking to the reader like it's just bad writing? So how can you represent someone who doesn't speak English well properly?
Your best bet in that event is not going to be to type out half-baked broken English as you perceive broken English to be. Your best bet is to keep their dialogue simple, to not use words that someone who is speaking a second language would use. You note that their English is poor, their English is, not, it's not a non-native speaker, and then you keep the wording simple and carry on with the story. You're not trying to drag the reader out of the story. You're just trying to shade a character a little bit.
Yeah, it's got to sound right. I mean, like, you've got to, in effect, act out your character in your head, or even physically, to make that character accessible to the reader.
Yes, and because at the end of the day, what you don't want to do is to knock the reader out of the story trying to decipher what you wrote.
Yeah,
it's got to be plainly understandable.
But I had a similar issue recently. I've written after my first post-apoc series, I've got 2 spin-off books. That all takes place in an area of southern France on the border of Spain in the Catalan region. Now, it's one of those places. It's like Texas. They think they're their own country. Mm-hmm. So they've got the Catalan region that's neither France nor Spain. They are Catalan. And writing a story with English people speaking French, French people speaking Catalan and English, Catalan people speaking English, getting that syntax right without it sounding like Yoda is really difficult. Luckily for me, my main editor I use as a self-publishing side, she speaks more languages than I can do accents. She's absolutely phenomenal with that. So she can actually avoid that concept of putting it into Google Translate and then getting back the exact English words that just jar and don't sound right.
Right.
So that's how it's got to be. It's like, I'll come back to that term. It's got to be accessible to the reader. Again, it's got to flow.
Exactly. And whether you call it flow or accessibility or not knocking your reader out of the story, I think we're saying, at the end of the day, we're saying the same thing. It's got to be part of the story. It's got to be part of the fabric of the story.
And if you like move on with your writing, you go into Audible. Writing for Audible has changed how I write books, because before, when I was not hearing it being read out, the style of writing is different, and that is just straight to accessibility.
Yeah.
A question from Boar. Why?
Boar, damn it, because. Go away.
Just moving on. Right. And I think before we finish up this first one, if you could describe your perfect Sunday.
Ooh, my perfect Sunday. Pizza or calzones, or if it's a rainy day, maybe Chinese takeout and hot fuzz. Swan!
Yeah, for most people this side of the Atlantic would know what hot fuzz is. Anyone over there who hasn't watched Hot Fuzz, I can confirm it's probably the most accurate representation of life as a rural police officer in the UK you get. Up until towards the ending bit, it gets a bit weird then, but the initial bit, yeah, it's pretty accurate. Do watch it; it's hilarious.
And let's go to Cornetto.
Cornetto. Okay, that's it for the first episode's questions.
And I thank you, Deb, for being here. And
Anytime.
let's see. Okay.